and start the Southborough Youth Commission meeting January 9th, 2024. It is now 7:02 p.m. We will start with the director's report today. Sarah.
All right. Yeah, so I guess along the same lines of Sarah Micus not being, she's in Costa Rica right now. Isn't that lovely while we're all here in the snow?
We don't like her.
Okay, where I opened this, I just need to find it. All right, so I have what I've been calling for myself an expanded director's report for you today, with some additional details. So highlights since the last meeting. December is kind of a funny month because of a lot of changes in people's schedules, even leading up to winter break for students. There were a lot of changes happening for us, but the major points were Shannon was able to offer a QPR training at the high school for parents. It was a worthwhile venture, but sadly, as you've heard us say many times before, we had very low attendance, unfortunately. But again, you know, we're of the opinion that even if we just train one person, it's worth doing. So that happened on December 13th. Also on December 13th, the Senior Center had invited us to do some outreach efforts at Colonial Gardens. So Shannon was invited to their luncheon and brought over a lot of great information for the residents who live there about our services. So that was also on the same day. And that was nice. We had actually really nice attendance for that event, which is easy because the people live there. So, but it's nice that many of them came out of their apartments to join the festivities. So that was nice. I'm excited to report that we, the Drug Free Communities Coalition Coordinator, was hired. Emily Flavin is her name, and she started on the 18th of December. We have already met with her a couple of times. We had her come over to our office just this past week to meet with Shannon and I. And she's already doing some really great work. A lot of it's still very preliminary work, like getting a website up and running, collecting information that's needed for the grant report. So not as much exciting stuff quite yet, but that is to come. So as they say in prevention, you have to go slow in order to go fast. So she's doing a lot of those really important building pieces first. And then also,
was she a Northborough resident?
I don't know if she was a Northborough resident.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah, she is local. She worked for the city of Worcester before coming to work for the towns of Northborough and Southborough, but I don't know. She might be local. She went to WPI.
Huh.
And the last big thing that was a big piece of December was Winter Wishes distribution, even though that happened very early on in the month. It was nice to get that out to families. I think I had already reported that to you all when we met at our last meeting, but that was a highlight for the month, and just tying up any loose ends related to Winter Wishes during the month of December. Upcoming things, we have a lot that we're working on. More details will be coming, I'm sure, but we are very thankful to the Southborough Community Fund for awarding us some grant funds to hire 2 trainers, both of them mentioned here. One of them is offering a webinar, which actually is a nice option for these colder winter months, as we're all home right now with it snowing outside. So Donna Shea, who is a presenter we had previously, she's from the Peter Pan Center. She does a ton of different talks Really fantastic. And she's doing Parenting Your A+ Child, and A being for awesome, but also for anxious, angry, active, and awkward. Lots of different A's. And parenting can be difficult even under the best of circumstances, but add any one of those additional challenges and it can be hard to know what to do. So that's what Donna's talk is about. This is a webinar that you just simply click on the link and share your information to get the Zoom link in your inbox. So that is available through our social media, and we've tried various ways to get that out. So the other speaker that we are bringing in person, also thanks to the Southborough Community Fund, is John Madelman. John is actually he's a former Youth and Family Services Director for the town of Needham. So when I first started as an intern, he was still working in Needham, which was pretty neat. So I've known John for quite a while. But this is his bread and butter now. He does talks all over the state of Massachusetts. His most popular talk is The Secret Life of Teens and Tweens and Teens. And he's really engaging, uses a lot of humor in his presentation. So we're excited to be able to bring him in for that talk. So that's happening on March 6th in the Trottier Library. We had hoped to do it in the auditorium, although I think the library is actually a nice option because it feels a little more intimate, lends itself more to good conversation. I think Trottier has a concert the next day, so the AV equipment is not available in the auditorium. So, but we really wanted to do it at Trottier or Algonquin because of the subject matter. So, so those two things are happening. We're getting advertising out for Donna Shane now. Advertising for John Madelman is coming very shortly. Through our coalition, we have Jay Otto, who is a scientist and senior trainer out of Montana State University. He did a training for us back in the summer and is doing part 2 of that training. This is Positive Cultural Frameworks. We're very excited about that. And then I think just for some fun, we're working on costume karaoke for National Day of Unplugging, which is, you may remember we did family game night last year. So we're giving this a try this year. And some of the details still need to be worked out. I'm actually going to be meeting with friends of the Southborough Youth Commission tomorrow night to discuss more of those details. So hopefully we'll have more information on that soon. Mental Health Awareness Month is taking shape. The one thing that we definitely have scheduled is The Power of Positive with Carrie Stack. Carrie, like John Madelman, is a highly engaging speaker, very, very funny. And because of the topic that she's going to be covering, we're working on developing a theme for Mental Health Awareness Month this year, sort of centered around reframing the way that we think about our own challenges into learning experiences and opportunities for growth. And so we just have to come up with that phrase that goes along with summarizing that kind of thinking for Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're working on that and developing some other programs to happen during that month. Before I move on to the rest of the director's report, I don't know if there's any questions on the things I talked about already. I can't see everybody, so I'm guessing no. The operating budget is here for you to see, as well as the donation account. We did have some expenses that we were under the threshold of meeting the Youth Commission's vote, but I did reach out to Lauren on a few things. We also have a pending donation. Thank you very much to Pilgrim Church, who on an annual basis sends a donation to the department, which we're very grateful for. So this number will change next month for sure. We also have sort of the current standing for ARPA funds for your review, and statistics. Again, I was trying to use, we're still learning how to use My Senior Center, and rumor has it that there's a new version that should be coming out this year, an updated version. So once we finally know how to use this one, we're going to have to learn how to use a new version. But are finding it very helpful with collecting and reporting on statistics. So just as a reminder, duplicated and unduplicated, unduplicated is all of the unique requests in these different categories. And then of those requests, sometimes we are helping people, those individuals, more than once in that service. So for example, if somebody had an initial call to us for mental health support, that would count one time. And then if we needed to follow up with those individuals multiple times to find out how they're doing after that initial call, we would count that multiple times. So hopefully that makes sense. So those are the statistics from when we started using My Senior Center up until the end of the calendar year. And then lastly, the last page is just offering you some updates on how our strategic plan is going. I'm not going to go through all of this in detail. I will just mention that with need-based services, one of the things that we're working on, and actually working on this with Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission, because they're funding some of these programs, is coming up with one income eligibility application and adding an element of a brief interview for families to become eligible for the programs that Friends funds, which are the Emergency Fund, the Camp Scholarship Program, and the Winter Wishes Program. As it stands right now, we have 3 different applications for those 3 different sets of documents. So streamlining is the name of the game here, and I'm working on figuring out what we need to be asking in those applications so that it's not so difficult to become eligible for these services, but also requiring families to do some work to show that they are eligible for these supports. So that's something we're actively working on right now. I don't know if anybody has any other questions about other things that are written here on the strategic plan.
I think you did a good job of summarizing it.
Thank you. I probably talked more than I needed to, but
No,
okay.
and you answered my question, which was the duplicated versus unduplicated.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we can move on to the FY25 budget update from Sarah.
Yeah, so essentially, I don't have any changes to report, but just want to share that I had attended just after our last board meeting. I had attended a meeting with advisory to review our budget request. It really went very smoothly. There weren't really any questions or objections stated, although that's, not really what the purpose of the meeting was, but rather to understand what the request was. In later this month, on the 27th, I believe, I am heading, is it the 27th? Yeah. I'm going to be meeting with advisory and the select board together to present the budget request. In the meantime, there has been some conversation about, so one of the items that's in our budget request is interface referral service out of our contracted services line. You may remember that we were encouraged by the select board to put that in our operating budget, or put it in the operating budget for the town to sustain that service. And one of the conversations that's happening right now is about potentially funding interface using opioid settlement funds. There's some conditions associated with the use of opioid settlement funds. I'm not sure how familiar you all are with that. But it's money that we have available to help with substance use treatment services, but also prevention work. And certainly, arguably, interface is having interface available for the town is definitely a form of prevention for substance use. And while people might not be requesting substance use treatment referrals out of interface, they are, by accessing mental health support earlier, we are potentially curbing some future substance use challenges for people. The challenge is just going to be around the reporting and also other conditions associated with using those funds. So I am just one person of many participating in that conversation, so I don't have any real updates on that, but just to share that that's being discussed. The school committee was also exploring the idea of sharing the cost of interface with us, so that's another factor that's at play here. Town meeting is in March, so I'm sure lots of conversation will be happening between now and then. And I'm sure I'll have another update for you on our budget before then. So that's really all I have right now.
Any questions? All right. On to outreach opportunities. Not sure that we have anything specific until the karaoke night.
Right. Yeah, I say this or these few meetings, I'll say the same thing every time, that this is the harder time of year for us to do outreach. So if you have any thoughts on, even if it's sort of passive ways of doing outreach, so maybe not actually having anybody stationed somewhere, but thoughts on how we can get our information out to the community.
Do we have any upcoming registrations for anything? Like, I guess everything's online, so I'm trying to think if there's any, like, like not like the Gobble Wobble, but like where people go to Trotty or.
You know what? The town that I live in, I have
What about
often
town meeting? I mean, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, town meeting, we usually do outreach because I'm there anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. In the town that I live in, when people's tax bills go out, or we have a municipal electric department, which is interesting. But there's something that goes home in the mail to all residents about services that are offered. We don't have a youth and family service in the town that I live in, but I always thought to myself when I received that at home, like, that's a very highly effective way of, especially during these colder months, people are really, we have a program that's called Help at Home. And So if you're somebody who's struggling to keep your heat on during these months or keep your electricity going during these months, I think that's why they purposefully are sending it out this time of year. So that is one thought I've always had about, if there was a way. It's a rather expensive way to do outreach though, because sending something home to every resident is pretty costly. So
Could we ever partner? I think we talked about this with friends. Could we ever partner with like the post office and when they just take one and they put it like in everyone's mailbox in Southborough? Would they ever do anything for so you don't use postage?
right.
I don't know.
You mean like the PO boxes or
just like, the mail trucks that drive around and they have
Mm.
like those, Thursday flyers or whatever circulars. I didn't know if there was a way that we could partner with the post office and ask them to just, it doesn't need to be addressed specifically to each resident, but if there's any way to put,
You mean bulk mail?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just says, addressee on it or whatever.
right.
But I think
Yeah.
it's just bulk mail. So get a deal at the post office or something.
Yeah.
without having to address it and stamp every single one.
Yeah. I'm sure we can do that. Somebody is paying for that. I know that some of the other town departments have done that before, and are much more familiar than I am with that. But I'd love for residents to know, although I'd love for residents to know about fuel assistance this time of year, about the emergency fund. This is the time of year when we see a big uptick in that. The reason I chuckle a little bit is it's unfortunate, but the fuel assistance system is so overwhelmed that people will become eligible and we can help them apply, but often it's very delayed in them actually seeing the benefit of that application, which often the emergency fund kind of steps in the meantime. Like today, we fielded a request for help with oil because they've applied for fuel assistance, but it's going to take a really long time before they actually receive their fuel vendor receives a payment. In the meantime, they're going to run out of oil. So it's not perfect, but it's at least to let people know. It's a little nerve-wracking because you don't want to open Pandora's box. But I guess again, this is why we'd like to come up with a new, more streamlined income eligibility application for these kinds of things. So it's not just going to be, we're not just going to be handing out money to everybody. You have to actually be eligible for it and go through a process. So, but just talking about that outreach piece of it, I'd love to. It might be too late to do that now, but we should think about doing something like that. Sending home. Do you all are you all receiving things from the town this time of year, like tax bills or?
I feel like we got something not too long ago from a town office. I'm not sure what it was. I would have to check.
My husband just walked in and he said tax and water bill.
Thank you,
I was like,
husband.
what do we get? So maybe it was a water bill, Laura, or a tax bill that you.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was a bill of some sort.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Tax and water bill, yeah. And then
Along the. Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just kind of piggybacking on that postal idea. I think that I think it might get complicated trying to go through the post office, but I think doing like a direct mailing placement like that is a good idea, but that could be sourced through volunteers as well. It probably couldn't be all done in one day, but rather than going through the post office, you could get, I know that there are high school kids who are looking for volunteer activities too, of driving age, like if people need, for added hands to bring things around to town members into.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is I think we actually are not legally allowed to do that.
Oh, really?
In my own neighborhood, I tried to organize a neighborhood yard sale one year, and I went door to door delivering flyers to everybody's mailbox. And somehow my mailman figured out it was me and got every single one of those flyers and returned them to my
You're
house.
kidding.
I'm not. And there was a note that said, you're not allowed to do this.
You have to put
Wow.
like a flyer on a door or whatever.
Yeah, you could put it in a door. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like Laura, I had a block party and I put things in people's mailboxes, and then I realized that was like literally against the law. I found out and I was like, oops, sorry. But I know.
Wow. I had no
Yeah.
idea. I've never heard of that.
I guess if you think about it, they have to do that because what would stop people from constantly doing that to people, like just
Yeah, I
having,
guess that's true.
yeah. But we have, I don't know how much people, this sounds like a terrible idea, actually, the more I think about it, but there could be, we have had volunteers hand things out over at the transfer station before, because that's a happening place, although doing that in the winter time sounds awful. So, but yeah, unfortunately, I think with regard to getting things in people's mailboxes, we have to go through the post office for that, unfortunately. So, but
The only other thing that everyone gets is the every September the dump application letter in the mail, Don't we get that every September? So
Yep.
like, and then it's kind of like coinciding with school starting. I think it starts in September, but
Yeah, I
I
think it
imagine
comes
that-
out at the end of the summer, I think, before,
Yeah.
because when it's due for the fall, yeah.
yeah, it's the fall. That's the other
I
thing
assume
that
that comes from DPW, right?
Yes.
That would make sense. Okay.
Do you ever
Well,
just post,
oh.
Sarah, do you ever post like fuel assistance flyers at the library or where people like or the senior center where people would see?
Yeah, we don't often do hard copy flyers much anymore. It's we did that for a long time, and it often didn't really, I mean, it's hard to measure whether it had any impact, but it didn't seem to enhance our efforts in any way, unfortunately. So.
Okay. Any other outreach discussion?
Sarah, this is not outreach specific, but back to, for the Mental Health Awareness Month, are you guys looking for ideas to incorporate in that as well? Or do you kind of source that with, from your office?
No, we welcome, in part why I try to share things as early as possible is to share our ideas, but also to get board feedback. So if you have ideas, we certainly welcome them.
Okay. Yeah, I have like a particular interest in that theme that you presented. So I could just shoot some things your way.
That'd be great. That would be fantastic. Yeah, it's really, we're trying to take the last couple of years, a very positive approach to mental health, and inspire people and bring messages of hope instead of highlighting just how challenging times can be, because we all know that part already. So really trying to help people reframe the way that they think about their challenges and lean into them and say, what can I learn from this?
Yes.
Yeah, that was like that whole superpower.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
I love that.
Yep. That's exactly what that program was about. Yep. Yeah, I'd love to chat with you about that.
All right,
Laura.
great. I can email you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we have the Friends update. Karen?
Okay, so our next meeting, like Sarah said, is tomorrow evening, and we'll be discussing the costume karaoke event, which is going to happen on March 1st. So more to come on that. Winter wishes, recap. Well, we just put out, I think My Southborough today put out a letter, and we wanted to really thank all the residents and all the donor groups for the successful winter wishes. And it told how many families, like 101 families, and how many residents? Oh, what was the two stats?
101 residents, I
Residents.
believe, from 27 families.
27 families, yeah. Okay. And so our next step is going to be letters of thank you to direct donor groups. I think we have to, we're obligated for like anyone that donated over $250, but so Friends will be working on thank yous to those. March Munchie Madness, I've already mentioned this, but it's where I think we did Wednesday of every month in March. We reached out to a specific restaurant, and 10% of the proceeds that night went to the Friends of Youth and Family Services. So we'll be doing that again in March. Then costume karaoke, and the last item was that there's a Algonquin 2024 scholarship, and the Friends group has approved that we will fund it, and it was like a one-time of $1,000, I believe, and the Youth Commission will be choosing the recipient. So that obviously will be later in the year, and the Friends is fine with continuing that. And
All right.
not too much more. It's kind of hard because then our update after tomorrow we'll have more, but we'll just have to wait till the next meeting. So, but I can always send emails, but.
Questions for Karen? All right, with that, we come to adjournment.
I don't know how these meetings keep getting faster and faster. It's just very strange. We used to, no lie, this group used to meet for 2.5 hours. That was before we had the director's report. So the report was created out of a need to share information concisely without giving every detail in the meeting. So that helps for sure.
Yes, it does. It really, it's great.
Yeah.
If I may have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Karen Englam, roll call vote.
Yes.
Laura Chioco,
Yes.
Susan Byer,
Yes.
and Lauren Ritchie, yes. All right.
Okay.
We will see you next month.
All right. Sounds good.
Good
Bye,
night,
everybody.
I'll see you tomorrow, Sarah.
Stay
Bye.
safe. Bye.
Bye.